connecting.
All right, and welcome to the interview today. As Sabre Cook joins us, as this one should be a great interview. As you all may know, she will be driving for the second year in the W Series and raced F4 with Velocity Racing Development and Team Benique, and also was part of the Infinity Renault and formerly Renault engineer. So thank you for joining me. Now, this was
Thanks for having me.
a lot of work in progress, and well, can't wait for this one. So let's start it off. What was it like growing up in a family who enjoyed racing?
I obviously was very blessed to grow up in a household that encouraged me to get into motorsports. My dad primarily encouraged that because he used to race motocross and supercross. So yeah, I grew up, most of my childhood days were honestly spent. Between school and extracurriculars, it was always spent at the racetrack if I wasn't doing anything else. So just kind of running around there with my cousins and getting into not too much trouble, but yeah, it was a really great place to grow up in.
That's pretty great. And when did you decide that this would be your main passion, just racing and just the whole racing deal, really?
I initially was really excited when I got my first cart, and then I scared myself, drove really slow. They called me driving Miss Daisy for a bit, and then I got teased by some boys, and then started being like, no, you know what? I want to do well. I can do this. So told my dad I wanted to take it more seriously, and then started getting more into it. And then after that, had my first big win in 2007 at the Tag World Championships. Was probably the moment where I was like, okay, this is what I really love doing this, and I think I could see myself doing it for the rest of my life. So that kind of was a defining moment in my career and my life.
Nice. And so, of course, yeah, you kept racing, got older, and I've asked this to basically every driver, but how are you able to balance it with school and just also racing? Because I know it gets very difficult even when at a young age.
Yeah, it was definitely it was super tough. Even when I was in grade school, but I made it all the way through, finished my bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and I guess for anybody else out there that's trying to do the same thing, I would highly recommend just looking up basic techniques for really good time management skills and actually implementing those, because some of them seem silly, but if you really stick to just pick two or three to start applying to your life day to day, I think it really makes a big difference. I always have a planner. I write everything down, so that way I don't forget something. And just realizing that there's 24 hours in a day, and you have a lot more time than you think that you do if you just choose to kind of push yourself to take advantage of those hours. And making sure you have good people around you too. It was a really big help for me, making sure I had a good support system at home with friends, teachers that understood where I was at with my career and my life,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that made a big difference.
Nice. So, what was it like having a karting track close by to really practice and help just improve your skills from the start?
It was super beneficial to have a karting track in Grand Junction where I grew up because there's nothing else car track wise or karting track wise until you get to Denver, which is 4.5 hours away. So to have that there, that my dad and my uncle, my grandpa ended up building that track initially, and it was a great place to grow up. It was a great place for me to kind of go out and drive whenever I wanted to. But the only bad thing is, I'm sure a lot of people with family businesses know, is usually when you show up, if you're showing up to kind of like go out there and enjoy it, you kind of always get sucked into like, oh, well, this needs to be done and my dad needs help with this. And so you end up working more than you would like to, and don't always get to practice as much as you think because you end up running the business more than anything. But it still was a great thing to have in my life.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and then yeah, in 2011, you raced at the famous Super Nationals race in Las Vegas. Just how was what was the challenge like there?
So I actually raced Supernats 2009 to 2017. All those years. The only year I missed was 2015, I think it was,
Yeah.
or 16. I'm one of those. I think maybe it was 16. So actual competition, and so it's a really enjoyable event. I think overall. Um, and my best finish at Supernats was 2012 when I finished second. But yeah, it's a tough race because it's different. It's not, it's a temp course, so it's more street course like, and just kind of getting used to the parking lot asphalt and racing with maybe more international competition than you're used to can be challenging. But it's probably my one of my favorite race venues all year round.
Of course, yeah. It always seems really fun, and it's where it's located basically around the strip. So of course you're gonna have some fun, and how hot it can get there always makes for some interesting racing. I've always
Yeah,
enjoyed
I
that
mean,
weekend.
the race always usually takes place in November, so it's not really that hot when we're there, which is nice. But at least it's not some days, and it could get freezing, and or some years we had massive rain showers, so we got a little bit of everything.
Wow, so nothing like Texas. I thought it was a little like Texas. Then again, I've never been to Nevada, so that's pretty much why.
Yeah, it's a different. It gets a little bit of everything, but I think it's just that time of year. It's going into winter, so it's not what you would expect of Las Vegas.
Yeah, for sure. So of course, moving on with being the first female to hold a pro SKUSA license. Uh, did you feel like you had more pressure, something more to prove in the following years when you had that?
No, I guess once I finally earned my pro license from winning you have to win the semi-pro championship or place in the top three at one of the national events. But I ended up winning the championship the previous year, and I guess I felt like my performance and results the past couple years in the shifter car classes kind of spoke for themselves and showed that I had good pace, I had good potential. And when I went into my very first ever pro shifter race was Tucson, Arizona, and it was one of the best races I think I've ever had, and it was so enjoyable. And I I remember going into that race weekend thinking I just need to go out there and do my best and not worry about like, oh well, where am I going to finish? Because nobody really expects you to come in and win or podium, your first race in S1. So I was like, I'm just going to go out there and do the best I can and fight like hell and see where I end up. And fortunately, it worked out, and I was able to score two podiums my first weekend. But yeah, just tried to kind of not take in too much pressure that wasn't there because a lot of people don't expect it when you're going in first.
So after getting even more serious with karting, you start making a name for yourself. How's it being able to travel internationally to race karts?
It was awesome. The first time I went international was when I was 16. I went to France and raced at a gorgeous track there. And since then, I wanted to do more of it. And when I got more opportunities later on, I just really enjoyed it because you get to experience new cultures, you get to experience different kind of different cultures at the track too. So I thought it was all great experiences.
It's pretty cool. Um, then of course, yeah, because it's just international. It's always different. And what was your favorite track when you raced internationally?
In karting or cars?
In karting.
In karting, uh, I think I'd probably be. I really enjoyed Sarno in Italy. That was a good track, as well as probably the first track I went international to was the one branched in La Valenne, and that for me was it. I don't know, something about the track was really enjoyable, and I ended up running the X30 there, but they had handbrakes on the front, so it was just like a new interesting combination of a package I hadn't run before, and so I think I liked the challenge, and the track was well suited to it as well.
That's pretty good, yeah, of course. But that can also lead to a lot of understeer, and then not just too much understeer sometimes, in my opinion.
Well, with the front brakes, it can actually help a little bit with getting front grip because then it just transfers more weight to the front, plants the front tires. So they actually can help you gain grip. Obviously if you lock the front tires and then you can understeer off, but overall, if you use them within the threshold of the grip limit, it can actually quite help going in on entry.
Yeah, pretty cool. Uh, so let's see. So in the let's see here. Yeah, looking back at all your karting career, how would you sum it up?
My karting career. I think it was pretty successful overall. I had a lot of firsts for a female. I feel like I hopefully opened some new avenues for younger girls coming up, and tried to be a good role model for them. Um, I won, 3 world championships and 3 national championships. So I think it was pretty successful overall, and I really enjoyed it. And I hope it's not over. To be honest, I would like to go back to karting as much as I possibly can and do some more races.
Pretty cool. Yeah, karting's always a blast, and the only problem is the older that we get, the tougher it is to go fast in karts because the weight.
Well, I mean, as long as you stay fit,
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
fine. Then you should be all good.
Yeah. So now, of course, moving on to your actual car days, as in just single seaters and all that fun stuff. You started off raced, of course, in F4, but you started before that. Just take us through when when you decided to move into cars. When did you know that it was the right fit?
It wasn't really about when I knew it was the right fit. I tried for years to move to cars before I did. It's just I didn't have the funding. I wasn't in the right place. I didn't have the right mentors around me to show me what I needed to do to get where I needed to go. And so kind of just kept pushing, kept trying to build my network, and then um, finally came through in 2017. Very late to start going to cars, but at least I made it finally, and started out with some, SCCA grassroots stuff. So it was a lot of fun. I met a lot of really fun old guys that, just love race cars, and did the Formula Enterprise class, did some Spec Racer Ford stuff. I have a Spec Miata as well. I never actually raced it. It blew up the one race I tried to take it to. And then, just did that local SCCA stuff, and then I tried to move into USF 2000 and F4 the following year. Got budget enough to do, I think it was 4 USF races and 2 F4 races. So not a full season in anything, but at least I got the experience, and that allowed me to get into W Series the following year.
course, that 2017 really marking the start of your well your rise to getting into the W Series, I guess some people can say, and even yourself. But also, I just kind of want to stick with F4 for a moment, especially those races that you were able to do. It's pretty crazy if some people don't know, or you can even explain it too. When you went into USF4, especially into the final race weekend of that season, how were you able to pay for that final ride? Like, just be able to get the funding for it? Because I think it's
So
pretty
I have
interesting.
I have a few sponsors that helped pay for it.
Hmm.
Edcott Concrete, Alpine Bank, Coda Karting, Apple Motorsports, Aspen Equity Group. The helmets always helps me out with great kit setup. So those guys are the key people that really put me in a good place to be able to do the last F4 race. I did do a little bit of the GoFundMe stuff, but unfortunately, with the high, it costs a lot to be able to race these cars, and I wasn't. The GoFundMe page really helped take care of like smaller things like just place to stay like a hotel and or just like airfares or something for the crew or paying the mechanics stuff like that. So it was very beneficial, but yeah, the GoFundMe did help with stuff like that, but I didn't fully fund it through that.
Exactly. Hear that, people? GoFundMe can help with something. It
Of
doesn't.
course it can.
Yeah,
So many things. It really, really can.
of course. So, with being able to drive all those cars, especially that season, how would you be able to sum up that rookie season in open wheel?
In 2017 or 2018?
I guess 2018, really, after your rookie year. How would you be able to sum
Uh,
that one up?
I'll be honest, 2018 was not what I wanted it to be. I was very disappointed with my results. I was disappointed with my on-track performances. And I guess I have to let myself up a little bit because I think I was going in with where I was trying to juggle too many things. Trying to be a driver, trying to manage everything, trying to find all the sponsorship, um, just booking everything, anything and everything that needed to be done is kind of what I was doing. And it's hard to drive a race car fast when you're also the one worried about how you're going to find the money to pay for it, and if you crash or pay for it just to get to the next race. And so it's a lot of added stress on and a lot of added elements that kind of make it difficult to focus on like just the one job of driving and being fast. And I feel like I had some guidance, but I feel like I've learned so much just in 2019 that I wish I knew beforehand because I was honestly kind of just doing the best that I could with what I knew. But if I knew what I know now, then I would have done a lot of things differently, I think.
Hmm. Yeah. So after, well, I guess now we can kind of even move to just, well, what you were doing in 2018 as well, or just even going to college and then on the engineering side, I guess is where we can move to.
Okay.
So the big news coming into that was you were able to get the Infinity, Renault, Infinity, Nissan, whatever the whole program name is, but the Infinity
Infinity Engineering Academy.
Engineering Academy. There we go.
Yeah.
Um, just talk us through how that kind of came about because I know I studied up on it a bit, but just talk us through that.
Okay. Um, so I graduated in the end of 2017 with my mechanical engineering degree, and 2018 tried to more focus on racing, see what I could do with it. But then I also had this opportunity that presented itself. It's called the Infinity Engineering Academy. I actually applied to the academy in 2015 when they were with Red Bull instead of Renault, and made it to the national finals there as well. But it was after my first year and a half of engineering school, so I didn't have a lot of like the core technical classes. I hadn't taken those yet, so I felt like I was missing some of those key technical knowledge when I took like the exam. With a lot of the hands-on stuff, I felt like I did okay. Didn't make it then. Came back end of 2018. They had the U.S. final for the Engineering Academy in Austin during the F1 GP week challenges. We had an engineering exam. We had an interview with a panel of judges. We had a thing called the Harvard Challenge, where they partnered with Harvard to create a challenge that basically sees how people work well within groups, see how they problem solve, communication, and then we also had. I'm trying to think of the other one. We had like another group challenge, and then we also had a dragster challenge with RC cars. So pretty cool mix of everything for the first day of challenges, and then they picked 3 people that would go to the finals the next day. So I made it to the top 3, and then the second day consisted of a technical challenge within the Renault F1 garage, as well as a media grilling for 30 minutes. So we did the technical challenge in the Renault garage, and it was awesome. Everyone was like staring at you, and you're like, okay, don't miss. They're trying to solve the problem. We actually were given like infrared test systems, and we were given certain samples, like a certain base samples, so we knew what they were. We had to test what sort of substance it was, and it was supposedly found in like an air filter, and make a decision based on what we needed to do to the engine based on what we found within a certain time, so we could make it out for qualifying, because it was like a mock real life situation, and present it to the judges. And then we did the media grilling with all the journalists, and then they picked one, and I was lucky enough to win that. And then so once you win, you get a year-long placement in the UK. You get 6 months at Infinity Technical Center and 6 months with Renault F1. I started at Infinity first, and then I went to Renault after that. In Infinity, I worked in the vehicle test department, and then in Renault, I worked in composites in the suspension group. So that was my year, and I just came back to the States I don't know, I think it's maybe like 6 days ago I've been here. I haven't even been back a week. So yeah, that was the whole summation of that experience.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting, especially for a full year. Considering,
Yeah.
well, I mean, the good news is you did have some breaks because you were back in the United States for the F1 GP weekend. So
Yeah, it was super nice. Infinity brought me to the USGP, and then I was also back for the US final for the Engineering Academy again. So when we picked the new winner this last year, he's a young one. He's 19. I think he's gonna do great. But yeah, so got to come back for those 2 in the States, and I got to come back home actually during the shutdown during August. But other than those 3 times, I was not. I was abroad the whole year, so it was a great experience.
yeah, I guess talk us through being abroad in a different country than, of course, the United States. Yes, you had been out before, but what was it like, as in like the difference from home to being in England for a whole year?
A lot different. I feel like English food it doesn't have as much flavor as the U.S. food, which isn't right off the bat. You're like, okay, that doesn't sound nice. But then I did notice a big difference with like U.S. foods has so much unnecessary sugar and fats, and it kind of makes me sick now when I eat it. But I think it would be much better if we had less sugar in our food, because actually in the UK they have a sugar tax, so there's just less sugar in general in all their foods. I think it's actually something we should try to work towards. But yeah, their food definitely doesn't taste as nice. We definitely have a lot more options, and we have a lot more everything is more easily accessible, I think, for us. Like, let me just drive down the street like 5 minutes and go pick up whatever I need from like Walmart, King Soopers, City Market, Target, whatever you need. And in the UK, sometimes it can get a bit complicated. You're like, all right, I need like this kind of folder, or this kind, I need some like this battery, and you have to go to like 3 stores. I remember I had a pair of pantyhose that I ripped, and I had to go to like literally 6 different stores to find a pair of pantyhose. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, this should not be this hard. And other than that, some things are more expensive. I think the cost of living might be a little more expensive. Um, McDonald's does not taste the same. It does not at all. And they're very slow. Okay. What else? I mean, it was kind of nice how I didn't have to stress about health insurance because it was kind of taken care of through my uh, through my employer. But I don't mean to bag on UK doctors, but in my experience, they were not as. I feel like the quality maybe wasn't as great sometimes compared to the doctors we have here. So I think we're very blessed with the options that we have because we do have private healthcare systems sometimes. So. What else? That's most of it. I mean, you can get trains everywhere when you're in London, so that's pretty nice. And you can go most of the UK on a train. You can go to Paris on a train. You can go to Brussels. You can go anywhere. So that part is very helpful. But yeah, it was just different, and culture's different. Um, People.
It's pretty crazy, for sure. Just kind of a different, yeah, different culture shock in general. But good news is, well, yeah, you got trains in the UK,
Yeah.
so that's always good. Now, of course, kind of going back for the engineering, since yeah, you had that whole year, but I guess what what are your plans going to be for just in general for just the engineering moving forward, and also yeah, just moving forward.
So my plans for next year, I do have some exciting news to announce very soon. I can't announce it just yet. Hopefully, I'm hoping probably in the middle of January I'll be able to say. Um, I will definitely be doing W Series, of course, and I'm doing a Porsche Cup event in the end of January in Sebring, so that will be pretty fun, something new. And yeah, the other one I will I'll let you guys know as soon as I can. But engineering wise, I plan to work for a team in the States alongside while I race. And I would love to come back to F1 or I mean engineering full time in the future. But right now, you know, obviously I'm not as young as I would have liked to be at this point. I wish I could have gotten to this point much sooner, but racing is age dependent. I've got to go for the opportunities that I have right now. So I am pursuing racing next year, mostly focusing on that, and I will go back to engineering definitely in the future. I'm not completely leaving it. I will be doing some freelance engineering work next year, so at least I get to stay up on everything. But for right now, I had to say goodbye to the F1 engineering dream and hopefully revisit it later on.
All right, sounds like a plan for sure. Now, of course, I mean you mentioned it too, and it's a perfect segue into it. Is the W Series? Love to talk about your your everyone's rookie season into the W Series basically. And to start it off, how was the selection process for you? I know it was very rigorous. They had a bunch of tests for you all and put you all in groups. Just how was that?
It was very thorough. Anybody that tries to say that they chose certain girls for political reasons and they didn't choose the fastest ones, completely incorrect. I could show, if I was allowed to, I could show all the lap times, and they literally picked the fastest ones. Like that was that was what was most important, is you had to be fast. So they put us through a lot of exercises to get us there. I mean, the first evaluation event in Milk was honestly, it was so much fun. It was stressful, but it was a blast because we got to drive front wheel drive cars, we got to drive rear wheel drive cars, we got to drive in the snow and the ice, we got to drive in the wet, and they had like they had this, they have a skid pad area, they have everything set up that just they wet it all down, and you do car control exercises. They had a roll car, so you got to practice that, and we did a lot of different lapping, like consistency exercises, rolling speed exercises on the actual track, as well as doing these other individual skill based things. And but not only did they just have us do, driving things, we also had a fitness test, and we also did a group activity where we were put in groups separately. We were each named like after a track or an F1 race, and I was in the Melbourne group, and we had to do a certain series of tasks as a team to get a certain number of points to please a hypothetical sponsor. It was great because you got to see how we worked in a team, like how we performed under pressure, how we fought under pressure. But yeah, so we got to do that too, as well as we also had to do a presentation, like a quick interview, kind of say who you are, what you wanted to, why you're here, what you want, sort of stuff like that. And then the judges would ask you questions as well. So there was a lot of elements that went into it, and then that whole thing was purely score based. Only the people with the best scores, the ones that went to Almeria. And then from Almeria, it was obviously more track based, where it was a lot of lapping, qualifying sims, race sims, excuse me, fitness stuff. And then they chose the fastest, 12 initially, and so we knew we got through early. And then they had the rest of them. I'm sorry, I'm choking. The air is really dry in Colorado.
Yep.
Yeah, so then they had the rest of them go through, do more lapping and shoot out for the last 6 spots. And they chose the remaining 6 drivers and then the reserve drivers from the rest of the afternoon of those performance sessions.
All right. Yeah. Very interesting for sure. Through all of them, and of course, then like you said, they chose the rest of the drivers, and drivers as follow: Jamie Chadwick. Let's see if I can actually name them: Bites Kavissa, and I'm not gonna name them all.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah,
But
there's only 2 Americans, so
exactly.
bummer. But yeah, so and as of right now, it's looking like I am the only American for next year. So
Exactly. We
unless
still don't know if they're going to have reserve drivers or make a field of 20, make a field of 30. No one knows.
honestly, like you know as much as we do on that part. Like I don't know what I don't know what Dave Ryan has decided he's going to choose, but I'm sure whatever they decide is going to be the best for the series. So I think hopefully they'll announce soon, because I feel like I want to know what's going to happen. But, and hopefully they announce the final 2 races as well. So
Yeah.
fingers crossed for those. I think it's going to be a good surprise.
Yeah, so staying with the 2019 season from that, just of course we all know the highs and lows from your season, from the highs at Circuit Park Zolder, which is just absolutely crazy because I hate that track to death because it's just
Different.
chicanes.
It's different, yeah.
You had, I believe, an 8th or yeah, it was
no,
like you had.
Boulder was actually my worst race because I got a drive-through penalty. So there was it was Hockenheim was all right. It was a bit in the rain, just trying to stay with it. And then in Zolder, I was just running inside the top 10. Got a drive-through penalty. So that was my worst finish in that race. And then after that was it Misano next?
Misano.
It was Misano.
Yeah.
Had a breakthrough race in that one. I finished 8th that race, and then I finished 7th in Norris Ring, And then I got another drive-through penalty in Assen because I started in the wrong grid box, like a dope. What happened was when we originally went to line up, Vicky Peria's car was having a problem, so she was in the pits. And when we lined up, I'd left a gap for her. But then when we came back around to actually get the green lights, I still left a gap, but she was there, so I was too far back, and so received a drive-through penalty for that. I think it was a bit harsh, but and then so really hard to come back from that. I finished 13th because of it, and then I finished 9th at Brands Hatch. Made a mistake like 2 laps to go, got passed by Marta Garcia. So, but yeah, finished in the top 12 for the season. Definitely will try to get better than that. Especially, I'm not planning on getting any more drive-through penalties because that's very hard when you're a sprint race. It's only 30 minutes and you only have 6 races in the season.
Yeah.
It was not ideal. But yeah, I was happy enough to make it through and really trying to prepare and make sure that I do better for next year.
Exactly. And next year is going to be even tougher with the new tracks from it is that's right. They're changing Misano with Monza, which is, as we know, awesome flowing, but if you don't get the rhythm right, then it's going to be very difficult.
Cause it's gonna be long straightaways.
Exactly.
Just maybe take a nap.
Exactly. You'll be stuck behind the car, and when you think to overtake, you'll get overtaken. It's gonna be like Talladega for a bit.
Maybe. We'll see what happens. I'm interested to see what it's going to be like.
Exactly. I'm very interested to see about the track in Sweden, Anderstorp, because that's a very interesting track as well. I've heard it has some banking too.
Yeah, it does. It's like I think it's more than Daytona. Somebody said it was some ridiculous number, and I was like, no, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I don't think it would be more than Daytona.
I highly doubt it, but it was like much more than you would expect a road course to have. Definitely.
Yeah.
We'll see. And then Russia's going to be cool as well. I think mostly just because the city we'll be in is unique. So.
Exactly, and that's a new track too in St. Petersburg. It's not just the old St. Petersburg racetrack that everyone knows of, which is basically a go-kart track as well. So that'll be interesting to see. And also just want to stay with the W Series talking about it because, well, just talking about more of the, not only just the 2018 season, or 2019, excuse me, but also with the new sponsorship, how do you think that will affect the future of not only this year, but the upcoming years?
You mean with W Series, like the new
W
Rocket?
Series, the new Rocket, yes.
I don't think it will affect the way that W Series is run. It's just, I think it's just good that the organization is getting support from other companies, starting to build the brand. But I don't think it will change really the way that it's ran and the races that we do. We'll just do more promotional things for Rocket, and I'm happy to have them on board. And I'm sure everyone else is just ecstatic that someone like Rocket has decided to invest in W Series. So I think it's just a matter of more marketing and publicity involvement. But I don't think it'll affect how the races are run.
All right, and well, I guess I really don't have anything else. So I ask the drivers that I interview after everything is, where can we find you on Instagram, social media, and any sponsors that you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, definitely. You can find me on Twitter under Sabre Cook, Instagram Sabre Cook, and Facebook Sabre Cook Racing is my fan page. I do have a Pinterest and a LinkedIn, but I don't know if anybody really uses those too much. I mostly just pin pictures of dogs on Pinterest. So. And you can go to sabrecookracing.com. And you can go to wseries.com, find out all about that as well as you said sponsors, right?
Yeah.
Of course, gotta shout Great American Motor Speedway, Extract Technologies, Alpine Bank, Adcock Concrete, GJ Home Builders, Apple Motorsports, Aspen Equity Group, Enstrom's Candies, and Coda Karting. Because without all of you, I would not be sitting here giving this interview right now. So thank you guys very much.
All right. Well, this has been an interview with Sabre Cook. Once again, just thank you so much for doing this. No, it was a bit shaky at the start for this interview, but other than that, it's been a great one, and I just want to thank you a lot because, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you had a good Christmas and good holidays as well.
Of course. All right. And from me and Tip of Texas Sports Network, adios.